Very good evening to you and welcome to the broadcast tonight, the 24th day of July, the year 2024. President William Ruto now seems to have made strides in identifying and naming individuals who will be privileged to enter his executive room. His choice having sparked different reactions from Kenyans, among which we shall be taking a look tonight, among other major events of the day. My name is Sammy Adika and our sign language interpreter is Boniface Mureithi. Welcome to the broadcast. And starting us off, a new Afrobarometer survey reveals significant opposition among Kenyans to recent tax increases and a housing levy, alongside rising concerns about the country's economic direction and corruption among tax officials. Mumbi Waweru reports that 91% of Kenyans are opposing the petroleum taxes and 71% are rejecting the housing levy. Let's listen in.
Most Kenyans disapprove of higher taxes on petroleum products and the housing levy intended to fund affordable housing. Additionally, 62% oppose raising tax revenues to reduce government borrowing. A survey by the Afrobarometer highlights a significant increase in the number of Kenyans who believe that most tax officials are involved in corruption over the past decade. Almost half think that most or all tax officials are corrupt.
We have recently, I think this was in February 2024, there was an increase in the petroleum regulatory levy from about 25 cents to 75 cents. And of course, this affected the prices of petroleum products. And looking at the data here, so the respondents who actually disapprove of this increase in taxes in petroleum products, it's an overwhelming 91%. That means 9 out of 10 Kenyans disagree with this increase on taxes in petroleum products.
The survey reveals that widespread financial strain, with 89% of Kenyans reporting that they or a family member went without cash income at least once in the past year. Additionally, 67% experienced a lack of medical care. Furthermore, 55% of respondents depend on relatives for financial support, while 4% heavily rely on friends. 59% of Kenyans believe that the country is headed to the wrong direction, with 40% thinking otherwise. This sentiment reflects increasing concerns about income inequality, with a growing divide between the rich and the poor.
The housing levy, we have the Affordable Housing Act, which was passed, that was in March 2024. So the mandatory contribution, so the employee contributes about 1.5% of the gross income to this, and the employer a similar amount, so that the total amount would be 3% on the gross salary, monthly salary. And one thing we know, eventually this was deemed discriminatory, and unemployed persons are now expected to contribute 1.5% of their gross monthly income. And this targets the construction of 250,000 low-cost homes, but quality homes. But 71% of our sample felt that they strongly disapproved of this. So somewhat was strongly disapproved. That's a high percentage.
There is a notable divide in how different generations perceive these issues. Older people are more concerned about healthcare, while younger generations, especially those in the Gen Z and the middle-age groups, face significant challenges related to education and employment. The unemployment rate among the youth is 30% compared to 18% in the older generation. Corruption and income inequality remain pressing issues, with many Kenyans feeling the economic conditions are worsening compared to 12 months ago. Among the 2,400 people surveyed, reliance on social networks for financial support is common, with WhatsApp groups often being a source of aid.
The age group 18 to 25, 46% of them indicating they were looking for employment and they didn't have any at the point of the conducting the survey. 26 to 35, again, a very high, high at 40. you can see that it's declining.
Economic conditions and the cost of living are key concerns across all demographics. Older generations worry about healthcare costs, while younger people, especially those with school-going children, struggle with education expenses. The survey also indicates that protests and calls for government accountability are more pronounced among the youth, who are more affected by corruption and economic hardship. A new Afrobarometer survey shows that 91% of Kenyans are opposing the petroleum taxes and 71% are opposing the housing levy, with 59% saying that the country is not headed to the right direction. Reporting for Hope TV Newswatch, my name is Mombi Waweru.
Well, away from that, President William Ruto has faced significant pressure not to recycle members of his former cabinet as he appoints new cabinet secretaries. The president has nominated new cabinet secretaries in his latest appointments that complete the formation of his cabinet, with many from the former cabinet having been nominated. Lowell Mason takes a look on the new lucky cabinet secretaries.
President William Ruto's recent cabinet appointments have drawn attention due to the mix of new and familiar faces.
After extensive consultations, I have nominated the following persons for consideration and approval by the National Assembly for appointment as cabinet secretaries. As you're all aware, the list I sent to the National Assembly, I have since amended so that Roslinda Soipan-Tuya now goes to the Ministry of Defense. The Honorable Aden Bare-Duale moves to Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry. I have now forwarded the name of John Mbadi Ngongo to the Ministry of National Treasury and Economic Planning. Salim Mvuria Mgala, Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry. Ms. Rebecca Miano, Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife. The Honorable James Opio Wandai, Ministry of Energy and Petroleum. The Honorable Onesimus Kipchumba Murkomen, Ministry of Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports. The Honorable Hassan Ali Joho, Ministry of Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs. The Honorable Dr. Alfred Nganga Mutua, Ministry of Labor and Social Protection. The Honorable Wycliffe Ambetsa Oparanya, Ministry of Cooperatives and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise Development. The Honorable Justin Bidan Njoka Muturi, Ministry of Public Service and Human Capital Development. Madam Stella Soy Langat, Ministry of Gender, Culture, Arts and Heritage. I am still working on the other pending nominees, and I will be announcing them shortly. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless our great nation, Kenya. Asanteni sana.
Here is the list of the nominated cabinet secretaries who have been reappointed or shifted to new roles. Kithure Kindiki retains his position under the Ministry of Interior and National Administration. Soipan-Tuya, formerly the Cabinet Secretary of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry, is now the new Cabinet Minister of Defense. Aden Duale, previously the Minister of Defense, takes over as the Minister of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry. Alice Wahome continues her role in the Ministry of Lands, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development. Salim Mvurya, the former Minister of Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs, is now the Minister of Trade, Investment and Industry. Kipchumba Murkomen, previously the Minister of Roads, Transport and Public Works, is now appointed as the Minister of Youth Affairs and Sports. Alfred Mutua, who was the Minister of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs and Minister of Tourism and Wildlife, is now the Minister of Labour and Social Protection. Rebecca Miano, formerly the Minister of Trade, Investment and Industry, is appointed as the Minister of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs and the Minister of Tourism and Wildlife. Davis Chirchir, the former Cabinet Secretary of Energy and Petroleum, takes on as the Minister of Roads and Transport. President Ruto's decision to renominate 9 of the 21 Cabinet Secretaries dismissed on July 11th has sparked debate over the legality and suitability of these appointments, especially concerning Chapter 6 of the Constitution. Reporting for Hope TV Newswatch, I am Mason Lowell.
And President William Ruto has nominated the second batch of cabinet secretaries whose names will be forwarded to the National Assembly for vetting. Well, the proposed cabinet secretaries are John Mbadi, who will be taking over the Ministry of National Treasury, Salim Mvurya, Investment, Trade and Industry. Rebecca Miano will be taking over the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife. Opiyo Wandayi will be taking over the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum. Kipchumba Murkomen is back, but in the Ministry of Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports. Orange Democratic Movement, ODM, has the largest winner, or rather is the largest winner in the nominations, with its members taking lucrative positions in Ruto's cabinet. Nelias Wanjiru with more details.
The people of Kenya an assurance.
President William Ruto has included members of opposition in his government, appointing key figures from the ODM party to the cabinet in an effort to form a broad-based administration. President Ruto nominated ODM chairman John Mbadi as the new Treasury Cabinet Secretary and appointed Minority Leader Opiyo Wandayi as the Energy Cabinet Secretary. The nomination comes after weeks of street protests by the Gen Z youth who demanded an overhaul of the government, citing rampant corruption and mismanagement of resources. Additionally, former Mombasa Governor Hassan Joho has been named the new Mining Cabinet Secretary, while Wycliffe Oparanya is set to become the Cooperative Development Minister. The appointments also included Salim Mvurya as the new Investment and Trade Cabinet Secretary. Kipchumba Murkomen has been nominated to lead the Youth Affairs and Sport Ministry, and former Attorney General Justin Muturi is set to head the Public Service Ministry. Rebecca Miano, initially nominated to replace Muturi as AG, has been reassigned to the Tourism and Wildlife Ministry. President Ruto also nominated Stella Lagat to lead the Gender, Arts and Heritage Ministry. Former Tourism CS in the dissolved cabinet, Alfred Mutua, also makes a comeback in the Labour and Social Protection docket. At the same time, Justin Muturi, the former AG, has been nominated to lead the Public Service Ministry. The latest nominees join Duale, Tuya and other counterparts President Ruto announced last Friday: Kithure Kindiki of Interior, Alice Wahome Lands, Julius Ogambo Education, Andrew Karanja Agriculture, Eric Murithi Muga Water, Davis Chirchir Road and Transport, and Margaret Ndungu ICT. National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula has said all cabinet nominees will undergo vetting, including those reappointed. Ruto said he was still working on the other pending nominees and would announce them shortly. He has also given assurance to the Kenyans that his government is listening to Kenyans in all walks of life.
I want to give the people of Kenya an assurance that our government listens to them, and that for the last 1 month, I have led the government in engaging and listening to citizens from all walks of life as they express themselves in different forums and on various platforms. What has emerged as the foremost national concern requiring urgent and decisive action is the vexing matter of corruption and the non-negotiable desire for accountable leadership and integrity in governance. I have this to say to Kenyans: I have heard you, and I have heard you clearly.
The president has also ordered that all protesters who were wrongly arrested during the anti-government protests be released immediately and all charges against them dropped. Ruto added that the move will allow security agencies to devote more resources and time investigating serious criminal cases involving individuals who caused mayhem during the protest.
To protect and incentivize whistleblowers and enhance witness protection, making it easier and safer for citizens to come forward and report corruption as well as other criminal activities. Number 3, within 90 days, we shall propose amendments to the Public Finance Management Act and Public Procurement and Disposal Acts to overhaul the institutional and operational framework of public procurement, which has been identified as the epicenter of corruption, conflict of interest, and abuses of office in the public sector, with a view to deploying digital infrastructure within the next 6 months. The aim of this measure is to provide an open and transparent public procurement platform which gives open, real-time, and end-to-end public visibility of public procurement from advertisement to award of contract.
President William Ruto has also announced 7 measures that his administration will take to combat corruption, which has proven difficult to eradicate in previous administrations. Reporting for Hope TV Newswatch, my name is Nelias Wanjiru.
Thanks, Nelias Wanjiru, for that specific report. And a day after the Orange Democratic Movement ODM party announced that it is not negotiating for any coalition agreement with President William Ruto's government, the president announced 10 cabinet secretaries, with 4 of them coming from the Azimio coalition, a move that has been positively appreciated by some of the nominees. This comes after the president had promised a broad-based government in response to the nationwide protests, which begs the question of whether a broad-based government is necessarily a coalition cabinet. Ian Githuku with the report.
Following the president's promise to form a broader-based government as a way of uniting Kenyans who have been in a series of nationwide protests, the president went ahead to include 4 members of the opposition in today's naming of 10 cabinet secretary nominees. This has, however, been received with mixed reaction, as to some, the president appears to have gone behind his words and formed a sort of a coalition government.
I have nominated the following persons for consideration and approval by the National Assembly for appointment as cabinet secretaries. As you're all aware, the list I sent to the National Assembly I have since amended so that Roslinda Soipan-Tuya now goes to the Ministry of Defense. The Honorable Aden Bare-Duale moves to Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry. I have now forwarded the name of John Mbadi Ngongo to the Ministry of National Treasury and Economic Planning. Salim Mvuria Mgala, Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry. Ms. Rebecca Miano, Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife. The Honorable James Opio Wandai, Ministry of Energy and Petroleum. The Honorable Onesmus Kipchumba Murkomen, Ministry of Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports. The Honorable Hassan Ali Joho, Ministry of Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs. The Honorable Dr. Alfred Nganga Mutua, Ministry of Labor and Social Protection. The Honorable Wycliffe Ambetsa Oparanya, Ministry of Cooperatives and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise Development. The Honorable Justin Bidan Njoka Muturi, Ministry of Public Service and Human Capital Development. Madam Stella Soy Langat, Ministry of Gender, Culture, Arts and Heritage.
Kwa maoni yangu, sijiona kama amefanya kitu mzuri, but ni sawa, since hatuna nguvu kama wa Kenya na tunaweza pendelea pia sisi atuangalie saidi yetu, achague vijana wenye wamesoma na wenye wamehitimu kupewa nafasi kama hizo, na nchi itaendelea vizuri.
Members of the opposition included in today's listing of cabinet nominees are John Mbadi, who has been nominated to head the National Treasury and Planning, Wycliffe Oparanya for Cooperatives, Opiyo Wandayi for Energy and Petroleum, and Hassan Joho for the Ministry of Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs. However, Kenyans who already forced Ruto to withdraw previously proposed tax hikes have voiced the opposition to this unity government.
Hapo kwa upande wa Prezo, kwa cabinet amechukua mara ya pili. Kuna mistake amefanya. Kurudisha kuweka watu wa Azimio hapo ndani, unaona? Sisi kama vijana tutaumia kwa sababu hatutakuwa na opposition. Hii ni kama ametuonyesha tayari kuna serikali ya nini ya nusu mkati. Hapo wenyewe kama sisi vijana tutaumia na wananchi wote wataumia kwa sababu opposition ingekaa saidi yake, serikali ikae saidi yake. Ili kama kuna shida wa Kenya wakiwa na shida, opposition watatutetea. Ukiona sahi kama Raila, hiyo ni kusema tayari Raila ameshaingishwa wapi kwa serikali. Hapa hakuna mtu mwenye atatutetea kama wananchi. Hapa sasa naona sijui serikali yetu inaenda wapi. Ruto angeangalia, kuna vijana wengi hapa hivi Kenya wamesoma. Ange select at least watu ambao wako kwa serikali wakuje wa fixed hapo kwa hiyo nini cabinet. Angekaa na angekuwa na haraka yoyote. Yeye amechukua kitu and within 1 week akashachagua cabinet yake. Kwa upande wetu kabisa kama wa Kenya hatujafurahia na mambo yenye president amefanya.
Some of the opposition leaders who have been nominated have already come out to accept the nominations, with the likes of Ali Hassan Joho expressing gratitude to the president for the nomination to the Ministry of Mining. With most Kenyans seeing the move as somewhat unfair considering the availability of new faces who are capable of leading the ministries, some have expressed their concern that the opposition might cease to be active, hence leaving Kenyans exposed and with no one to speak for them.
Kulingana na vile wa Kenya kupitia katika matarajio ya Gen Z ni kwamba tunataka wale watu wako na profession na qualification, na tena wale watu ambao wako na bidii na hari ya kuwafanyia wa Kenya kazi. Sio wale watu wa kutembea katika magari makubwa, kujificha katika vioo vilivyofungwa vikakuwa vyeusi huwezi kujua ni nani yuko ndani. Ni wale watu ambao anakuwa na nafasi ya kutaka kujua kile kinachomuumiza mwananchi wa kawaida na aweze kukitumia nafasi hiyo ili aweze kusuluhisha shida ya mwananchi.
However, there are some who have commended the president, citing his move of including the opposition in the cabinet as one that will lead to more unity of the nation.
These are some of the views of Kenyans in regards to the appointment of members of the opposition to positions of cabinet secretaries nominees. Some seem to disagree with the decision, while some seem to agree with the decision, saying that this is the right way to go. For Hope TV Nairobi, my name is Ian Githuku.
For that specific report right there. Now, Kenyan journalists have held countrywide protests to condemn police brutality against members of the Fourth Estate. The protest, dubbed "Shoot Not the Messenger," sparked after a recent case of Nakuru journalist Caroline Kariuki, who was shot and sustained injuries while delivering, or rather covering, the Gen Z protest and the abduction of veteran journalist Macharia Gaitho. And as Gloria Musimbi reports, journalists are demanding accountability for illegal shooting, beatings and abductions of journalists.
The recent events of police brutality against journalists during the youth-led protests made journalists across the country to take to the streets to demand accountability for illegal shooting, beatings and abduction of journalists. Hundreds of journalists led by Kenya's Editors Guild and Kenya Union of Journalists KUJ joined marches across the country dubbed "Shoot Not the Messenger," carrying placards with messages such as "Don't crush the messenger" as they marched through the streets. In the capital, Nairobi, journalists gathered at Nation Center in the Central Business District before marching through key streets to present a petition to relevant government agencies.
We would like journalists to be offered security as they do their work, because they're doing their work in public interest. Besides that, we would like journalists to be accorded space to cover Parliament peacefully, because there are some journalists who have been denied entrance to Parliament.
Kandamiza, kesho utawaita press conference. Unaambia media mko wapi? Tutakuja vipi kama kila siku mnatukandamiza, kila siku mnatuumiza, kila siku mnajeruhi wanahabari wetu? Kazi yetu, makosa yetu ni gani? Kuja kuangazia mambo ambayo yanadhuru taifa la Kenya.
The journalists are accusing state organs and entities of censorship and are demanding accountability for illegal shooting, beatings and abduction of journalists.
Huu ndio umoja ambao tunahitaji. Wakati ambapo unatishiwa ndio inatuleta pamoja hata zaidi, tushirikiane, tushikane mkono na tusionyeshe kwamba sisi ni waoga, kwa sababu hakuna chochote tuko nacho cha kuficha. Sisi tunafanya kazi yetu kama wanahabari.
For us of media freedom, for us to stop blackmail of media. Kisiangani must go. Media censorship. So we've come here to deliver that message. We have a number of issues that we want the government to address.
Unlike the recent nationwide protests, journalists were offered security to protest peacefully, with other lobby groups joining the marches in solidarity.
I want to say this, on behalf of Parliament, we underscore the importance of media. You guys have been relaying all the information that we have as Parliament. We will not restrict media into Parliament. What we are doing is... Tutarudi hapa. Yes. Itafika kwa speaker, itafika kwa clerk. Hiyo kuna moja ya speaker wa National Assembly na speaker of Senate.
Received your petition and I will ensure that it gets to him. So thank you very much.
And please, after receiving, isiende ikawekwa kwa share. We need action. We need action. We need action. Tunarudi. Tutarudi Kenya tena kesho. Kwa sababu Wakenya wana haki ya kuandamana. Sisi tutaandamana tu. Kwa sababu tunataka haki. Nyinyi ndio mnafaa kuwa mnatulinda kama wanahabari. We should feel safe tukiwa na Ministry of ICT.
Representatives from several relevant government agencies confirmed receipt of the petition and expressed commitment to reviewing the grievances articulated by journalists.
Media freedom, we are here to stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in the Fourth Estate, the media houses. They have been subjected to untold torture, suffering, oppression by the police, by the state, and we are saying that is unacceptable. So we are here to stand in solidarity with the media houses and to tell the government they must allow media freedom in Kenya. This is non-negotiable. Media freedom!
With media freedom having been enshrined in the Constitution, the recent events of police manhandling journalists during the youth-led protests have only indicated that freedom may just be on paper, begging the question, when will the messenger be allowed to fully exercise their rights accordingly? Reporting for TV Newswatch, I'm Gloria Musimbi.
Well, still on that specific note, hundreds of journalists in different counties stood in solidarity with their colleagues in protest condemning government tactics to stifle media freedoms, including police attacks on journalists during the demonstrations that have rocked the country for the past 5 weeks. The protests were organized in the wake of attacks on journalists covering the anti-government demonstrations, among other grievances.
Haufai kupiga yule ambaye analeta ujumbe. Unafaa utekeleze yale ambayo yako katika ule ujumbe. Kwa hivyo katika karne hii ya 21 tunapoona waandishi wa habari wakipigwa, waandishi wa habari wakidhulumiwa, wakikosa kulipwa, wakihangaishwa hapa na pale,
na bila mwandishi wa habari hakuta kuwepo na upitishaji wa ujumbe. Sasa mimi naomba serikali yetu ya Kenya kwanza wawape waandishi wa habari uhuru wao wa kufanya kazi.
Kazi yenu nyinyi maafisa wa polisi ni kulinda mali ya umma na pia kulinda Wakenya. Kwa hivyo sisi tupewe nafasi ya kufanya kazi zetu.
Naomba tu tupewe ile heshima yetu tu ya kawaida. Tupewe tu heshima, sababu wanasema kwamba heshima si utumwa. Hivyo basi sisi tuna ile haki ya kufanya kazi yetu ipasavyo vizuri. Tuna haki ya kulindwa na polisi.
And President William Ruto has announced a salary increment for police and prison officers effective this month in a move aimed at improving service delivery in the security sector. Ruto was speaking during the swearing-in ceremony for the newly appointed Prisons Service Commissioner General Patrick Mwiti, whereby he emphasized his government's commitment in fulfilling its promises to uniformed personnel. And as Grace Ahati reports, the pay rise is in line with the recommendations put forth by the task force chaired by former Chief Justice Justice David Maraga last year.
In efforts to improve service delivery in the country's security sector, police and prison officers are set to receive a salary increment starting this month. President William Ruto has made the announcement during the swearing-in ceremony for the newly appointed Prison Service Commissioner General Patrick Arandu Mwiti, who now takes over from Brigadier John Kibaso Warioba.
I will well and truly serve the Republic of Kenya in the office of the Commissioner General of Prisons of the Kenya Prison Service, and that I will do justice in accordance with this Constitution of Kenya as by law established, and in accordance with the laws and customs of the Republic, without fear or favor, affection or ill will. So help me God.
The salary increase is in line with the recommendations made by the task force chaired by former Chief Justice David Maraga on December 21, 2022. Upon receiving the report in November, President Ruto acknowledged that the salary increase, along with the other proposed reforms, would address the problems identified by the task force, among them underfunding, deficient leadership, structural and organizational weaknesses, and corruption.
As a commitment that I made to our men in uniform, from this month, we will be living up to our commitment to enhance the salaries of our policemen, our prison officers, in line with our commitment that we made. So you come into office with good tidings for the men in the prison service, because this month they will have their first installment of increment of salaries together with the other security agencies.
At the same time, President Ruto has pledged to support Arandu, noting that the prison service also looks forward to his leadership in ensuring the country's correctional facilities are managed diligently.
The prison service is looking forward to your leadership as you lead the prisons team in making sure that our correctional services are managed appropriately in the best interest of the country. And the reform process that is going on at the prisons will be undertaken under your watch and stewardship. And I want to pledge and commit my support, and that of the entire government, to you and the prison service as you undertake the great transformation that we want of the prisons service.
Furthermore, President Ruto has highlighted that he is eager to see how the prison service will engage in various national initiatives under Arandu's leadership, among them the ambitious 15 billion trees initiative.
As you're aware, we have a big program that is being undertaken by the prisons on tree planting. I will be very keen to see what the service is going to do by way of contribution to this very important national program. As you're also aware, we have a whole food production process where prisons is involved. You already know that a few thousand acres of land under the prisons are now under food production. It is my expectation of you to make sure that every arable piece of land under the prison service is put under food production for purposes of supplying food to the prison service and by extension to the country.
Reporting for Hope TV Newswatch, I'm Grace Ahati.
Away from that, in the wake of growing number of accountability calls The Kenya Bora to Itakayo Citizens Union earlier today submitted a petition to Chief Justice Martha Koome calling for urgent accountability and justice for all Kenyans. The group has accused President William Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua of violating the constitution over 30 times since taking instruments of power in the year 2022. According to the union, more than 75 Kenyans were allegedly murdered last year and more than 50 others since the start of the youth-led protests approximately 5 weeks ago.
Recalling the president and his deputies a constitutional power the citizens have, and that the president, his deputy, and any state or public official cannot auction, loot our country, defy the constitution, and violate our rights and get away with it.
Ni mshangao kwetu sisi polisi wanakwenda barabarani na vijana kisha wanapiga risasi ili kuwaua, na wamekufa wengi sana, na hajakuja kuambia hata ile familia sorry tumekosa, na hatujaona hata polisi mmoja kupelekwa mahakamani.
When you go to pray for rain, carry an umbrella. So I'm asking Kenyans, the referendum committees, carry the umbrella because it's gonna rain, and the rainfall is that those people leave office before Christmas. We are not eating Christmas with these people in office.
President William Ruto has said that the government will provide assistance to families who have lost their lives during the youth-led protest in the country. Speaking at State House, Nairobi, the head of state said that it is the right for every Kenyan to hold a peaceful protest and express their opinions. The president also called on the judiciary to ensure that the innocent and those who were arrested and prosecuted during the protest are released and their cases dismissed. The directive will also provide an opportunity to the police to focus on the investigations against the real criminals so that they can be prosecuted accordingly.
I will be proposing amendments to the Evidence Act and the Criminal Procedure Code, among other necessary legislative amendments to all statutes relating to corruption, to expedite investigations and prosecution of corruption and economic crimes cases, and provide for their conclusion within 6 months. We shall also be proposing amendments to the Witness Protection Act to overhaul the statutory and institutional framework to protect and incentivize whistleblowers and enhance witness protection, making it easier and safer for citizens to come forward and report corruption as well as other criminal activities.
Leaders from President William Ruto's UDA party have called on the head of state to fully exercise powers bestowed on him by the Constitution in dealing with the protesters. The leaders from the North Rift region have dared the Gen Z to continue with the protest, echoing President William Ruto's recent stand that enough is enough and that the protests must come to an end. Led by Sigor, Member of Parliament, Chakapong, West Pokot Senator Julius Murgor and Kapenguria Member of Parliament, Dr. Samuel Moroto, the leaders say those demanding President William Ruto to relinquish his powers should stop and instead wait to face them in 2027.
Kwanza nataka nishukuru sana wakaji wa hapa West Pokot. Ile kuna counties 25 tumeona leo hao kufanya hiyo uchafu tangu waanze. Nafikiri wale 22 wamejifunza pia. Kwa sababu ina maana unapoteza wakati yako, unapoteza maisha yako, unaumia, wengine wanapelekwa wengine wanaenda kuharibu fiti ya watu. Ukienda Nairobi sasa, innocent people wamepoteza mali yao. Ukienda Kitengela, kuna hata wale walipigwa hapo, utapata kwamba wengi ni hata wengine hawajulikani wenye walikufa hapo hivi.
Mimi nataka niseme ya kwamba nataka niunge mkono Rais Mheshimiwa William Ruto kwa kusema sasa imefika mwisho and enough is enough. Hii mambo ya majensi ambaye sasa wanasema hawana viongozi na kila wakati wanatokelezea na demands mpya, ni kumaanisha kwamba sasa hawa ni kama spirit, ni kama hewa, hatujui tunadili na nini.
Hawa watu wa Gen Z tuliwasikiza na president
ambaye si kawaida kwa Afrika president kusikiza ati kikundi gani. President wetu amefanya maajabu, akasikiza watoto, akasikiza vijana, mpaka akasema ako tayari kukutana na hawa. Sasa ajabu ni kwamba wanapopatiwa nafasi hiyo wamesema hawataki kukutana.
Naitwa Gen Z. Koma usikuja barabara kesho. Hata msikuja milele, amen. Wewe peleka damu yako mpaka nyumba ndani ya mama yako. Hakuna tena kukurudi barabarani. Hakuna. Kenya, Ruto ako na uongozi bora katika nchi hii, katika dunia mzima.
Well, now moving on to matters sports. 15-year-old Nathan Mwangi returned an excellent score of 81 gross points to be crowned the overall winner of the 4th edition of the Karen Junior Challenge tournament held at the Lash 18-hole Karen Country Club. Munene Mutaka carded 86 gross points to emerge the boy winner at the KCB-sponsored tournament that was graced by 71 players. In the highly competitive girls category, Kendra Keter bagged 97 gross points to claim the girl winner award, while Amara Kimari scored 101 gross points to come in second. Flo Agina Isanda was third with 143 gross points. The 12th leg of the KCB East Africa Golf Tour will be held at the same venue on Saturday, 27th July, where 240 amateur golfers are expected to converge for a competitive tournament. Kenya's men's rugby sevens team fell short, losing 21-7 to Australia and 31-12 to Argentina in their opening Pool B match at the Paris 2024 Olympics. The Kenya Sevens will be concluding their group fixtures tomorrow at 3 p.m. against Samoa. Shujaa booked their ticket to this year's games after winning the African title last year in Zimbabwe and will be appearing for a third time in Paris. Kenya finished 11th in 2016 in the Rio Olympic Games, losing all matches before improving in the Tokyo 2020 edition, which was held in 2021, where they finished 9th.
I enjoyed my first 9. Well, it gave me a type of trigger to play well on the better 9. Because on the first side, I was just easy on it, didn't really take it serious. Second side I played better because I kept my head down, was serious. It's quite great.
Well, apologies for the mix-up. That marks the end of our tonight's bulletin right here at Hope TV. My name is Sammy Adika and our sign language interpreter is Boniface Mureithi. Many thanks. Good night.